Well, now that Mitzi and Linda have told you everything, I don't have a lot more new to add. Um, Let me try sharing the screen and show you some slides that I have. The, are you seeing now a slide that says pricing your glass art? I'm not hearing anybody. You're all muted, I think, but you're nodding.
Yes, we're
Yes.
seeing it. We're
Okay,
seeing
you're
it.
seeing it. Okay. So this is the basic formula that everybody has been talking about. Um, we approach it a bit differently, but it all comes out pretty much the same idea. What you want to sell your glass for is cover your material costs, cover your labor cost, cover your overhead, and include some profit. And the profit is something that people often will leave out, but that's what allows you to grow your business, to buy new equipment, to get better and bigger over the long haul. So that's an important consideration to include. And then at the end, I've said times markup. That's also, some people build that in a different way, but everything in the parentheses is what I want to keep. The markup addresses what the a gallery is going to charge. So in Oregon, every gallery that I sell in charges, I would call it 100% markup because they double the price. It's 50% of the retail price that they sell it for is what they paid for it, or double what you sold it to them for, whichever way you want to look at it. So that's pretty typical in this area, is to pay, 100% markup, or have the gallery charge 100% markup. And that will give you the retail price. And then you kind of have to do a sanity check after that and say, is this piece going to sell for that kind of a retail price? Is it even worth making it if that's what it has to sell for? And as Linda mentioned, and Mitzi too, in this area, it's hard to get very high prices for glass. I've heard, you get a lot more on the East Coast, but I don't have any personal experience with that. So looking a little bit at what goes into those items, materials is the glass and including waste. For example, if I'm doing a round piece, I could figure out the area of that round piece, but I don't, because I'm probably going to start with a square piece of glass, cut a round circle out of it, and the corners that are left over, I might find something I can do with them, but I'm going to charge them to this particular piece. So I'll count the size of the square that I cut the circle out of. Thin fire, fiber paper, kiln wash, whatever it is you're using, the display stand that you're going to use when you sell the piece. If you're going to ship it to somebody, you got to include the shipping costs. For labor, think about how much time you spent designing the piece, how much time putting it together, putting it in the kiln, getting it ready to fire. And then if you're shipping it or delivering it to a gallery, the time spent doing that. Overhead is the cost of firing and maintaining the kilns. Everybody's talked about that. I have calculated the cost for one kiln pretty carefully using measurements for how much electricity it uses. And then I've estimated for my other kilns based on the relative size of the kilns. And I'll show you those prices in a moment for what I use. Again, the cost of the materials that you buy at Bullseye or having them shipped to you if you're buying from a distributor someplace. taxes and insurance, especially if you're doing shows. You need to have insurance in case somebody injures themselves while at your booth or in your gallery or in your studio. Um, Studio costs, how much does it cost to just keep the lights on? You could be using that space for something else. So there is a cost associated with having the studio. And then, incidental things like business cards, websites, advertising, whatever you might do. Um, the profit, as I mentioned before, is what you get back in order to enable you to, buy more. It's not reimbursing you for your labor or for making the part. That's comes out of the labor costs. This is money to grow your business. And then margin, if you're selling in the galleries, I said 200% markup here. It's 200% of your cost is what the gallery will sell it for. 200% of what you sell it to them for. So let me show you a couple of pictures real quickly.
Hey, Bob, before you get started on that, Sharon
Yeah.
wanted to know which kiln you calculated the cost
I
on.
did it for the GL24, Paragon GL24 kiln. For a while, I had a tap controller on there, which did a good job of calculating the power consumption. So that gave me a good cost estimate for that. Unfortunately, that was about all it did a good job for. So I took off the tap controller and put the old 16 button controller back on. If anybody wants to talk about tap controllers, I'll be happy to tell you all about my experiences later, but I don't recommend them. So are you seeing a picture of an otter now? That showed up, okay. So this is one piece I'm going to talk about. This is just a 6x6 square tile slumped with a screen printed image on it. And then another piece that I'll talk about is this is about a 12-inch, as I recall, bowl, slightly slumped, that again has a silkscreen printed, powder printed image on it. So I'll go back to the spreadsheet. Oh, wait a minute. I have a better, let's look at it this way. So are you seeing the spreadsheet now? It says glass art and price estimator. Okay.
Yes.
So I took a slightly different approach to it than Linda did with her spreadsheet. First of all, mine's not nearly as colorful. I'm really envious of what she did there. I'm going to have to add color. But I started out with this table at the top where I itemized all the things that I typically use: labor, profit, retail, markup, and then the cost of glass. And I'm calculating the cost of glass at what I actually pay, which, like Linda, is basically 50% of retail. I assume that only a part of the sheet, when I buy a full sheet, is usable. So I say about 19 inches by 35 inches, because that's what's left after you cut off the edge strips. My cost that I calculate based on that is a little lower than what Linda came up with. So I'm not sure why there's a discrepancy there, but I think about 8 cents per square inch at 50% off. She was saying 22 cents per square inch at full cost. So obviously there's some difference there in how we're calculating it.
Bob, it's again, I just plugged in 22 because the majority of the glass that I bought, in a ticket that's 3 feet long, came out at 22 cents. So yours is probably exactly what you paid for that piece of glass.
Well, this is for the price code C glass in the Bullseye catalog, which is most of what I use. if you've got a lot of D and E and F glass mixed in with it, then that price would be higher. And if you use a lot of those higher price code glasses, then I would recommend breaking this down further.
Yeah. Okay.
But just for simplicity's sake, I say, in general, I use mostly class price code C. And then I also use Tecta, which is a cheaper glass. So that's only, 3.7 cents per square inch. And then I've got a price for frit and a price for powder as well. And then this is the kiln cost I was talking about. The measured cost for a typical firing in the GL24 was $3.50. And then in my other kilns, based on their size relative to the GL24 or the GM22, that's my big clamshell scut, which is about the same size as the GL24. I just scaled down the price. I've got costs for thin fire, for fiber, for the metal stand. And then down here at the bottom, on the left, I have each of the 3 different projects. One's that 6-inch dish with the otter on it. Another is a printed platter, and then the printed platter in a stand. And when I calculate the cost, I make some notes about, okay, I'm making an assumption of 36 square inches of glass, 3mm color, 36 square inches of clear, and 20 grams of powder going into that piece. And then based on this price table up above, I just enter a formula that uses these numbers times what I estimated over here to come up with this price. That way, when Bullseye raises their prices, I just go in here and adjust these numbers, and it automatically recalculates what the cost of the glass in that particular piece would be. So I don't have to change anything except my material costs up here. I do the same thing for firings. I make notes and then a calculation for supplies, notes, and a calculation. Labor hours, same way. And all of that adds up to these different columns. How much was my labor? How much? Okay, my total cost was the labor plus the supplies plus the firing plus the glass. It gives me $10.53 for that piece. Up here, I said I wanted 30% profit margin. So calculating 30% of 1053 gives me 316. Again, these are all just formulas. So if I decide I really want 40% profit margin, I just change it up here and it'll automatically recalculate it. Add my total cost plus my profit together. That gives me the wholesale cost. Double that using the 200% markup here gives me the retail cost. And then that's where I do the gut check and I say, would I pay $27 for that plate? And that sounds about right to me. So that's probably the price that I would put on that in a gallery is $27 or $28 in that neighborhood. This just gives me a starting point so that I can make an objective determination of about what I think it ought to sell for. And then you'd always have to do the subjective question, will it sell for that? Is that a reasonable cost? Or maybe it's a really unique piece and you think this might justify a higher price. So there's always room for some subjective adjustment in the end. But I start off trying to be as objective as I can and come up with an estimate. So I don't think I need to go through another example here. We've been through enough of those already. They all work pretty much the same. Does anybody have any questions about the spreadsheet or how I'm doing that? And again, I'm happy to share the spreadsheet with anybody who wants. There's a lot of things that aren't in here that might apply to you and your studio that you would want to add. I make no claim that it's a cure-all for everybody, but it's a starting place. And if you want to start with it and add additional cost items and additional categories of things that you make, um, it's all setups to be used as an example.
Bob, Carlene has asked, she says, I like Bob's profit add-on. Do you ever add a wow factor adjustment?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about with, when you look at the piece subjectively and say, this piece really came out special, um, and it's worth a bit more than just, the standard profit margin, um, then I would definitely raise the price for that reason. And, you know, the other direction happens too. Sometimes I'll look at a piece and say, well, I'm a bit disappointed in that one. It's not quite as good as what I had hoped. Uh, there are always flaws that the artist will see that probably nobody else will notice, but
Very true.
I may decide, I really don't want to charge as much for that piece. So I might lower the cost a bit on some.
I noticed there was a question we skipped earlier. Margie asked Linda, how do you figure out your profit? Did you still have the question after we looked at the spreadsheet, Margie?
Bob, you might want to be, there you go.
I took care of it.
Okay. Margie, do you still have a question on how I get my profit? Do I need to go back
Yeah,
over the
I
spreadsheet?
forgot to unmute. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Let me go back.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you got there.
Okay.
I did some subtraction and it didn't work. And so therefore I was confused.
Okay.
So I'm very
So I have
concrete.
I'm sorry?
I said I'm very concrete.
Okay. So I first calculate my cost for the glass,
Okay.
and then I have what I feel it will sell at, and Bob and I kind of do the same thing. And then my profit is just the difference between those two, also taking into consideration how much this piece I feel cost to fire it, including thin fire or fiber paper or whatever I might have need. That's it.
Okay.
I don't, but even though I say labor, and I think everybody needs to put that in there, but I don't specifically do that. I work very fast, and so I don't worry too much about it. And someone else who may be quite slow at what they do may have to say, oh, I might have taken me 8 hours, but there's no way I can get another $160 at, at $20 an hour. There's no way I could get that. So I'm going to have to discount it anyway, in my mind. So that's
So
it.
Linda, you're really not taking in account your labor in there, is that correct?
Well, I don't specifically. I don't monitor
Okay.
how much how much time I spend on the piece and then put that back in at labor. I simply, because again, we can only get so much here, and I'm
Right.
pretty familiar with how much my pieces sell for, and so I kind of back into it. Here's my cost. What do I think this size and detail can sell at? And am I happy at the dollar per square inch that I ended up with?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I thought,
We got a couple other questions here. Let's see. For custom versus production pieces, how do you handle someone who wants to order a duplication of a custom piece? Any of the three can take that one?
If I have a duplication of a custom piece, it depends on if they've seen the price on it before, obviously. If they bought it or a friend bought it or something, and you kind of have to charge about the same price. Doesn't have to be the same. But I also make sure they understand it will not be a duplication of what they got.
Yeah.
everything I do comes out differently. No matter what I try to do to make it exactly the same, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know, for me, I always tell people that they're one of a kind pieces, and they're buying a one of a kind piece. So if they want a second, it's going to be a one of a kind of that piece.
Yeah.
And just that it just really allows you to be an artist and to go with the flow for me. And maybe add or subtract, or make it a little bit different, but that way I feel I can tell them they are getting a one of a kind piece. It will be similar.
Good way to specify. I like that.
So
Oh, that's good. Okay, so the other one, somebody's asking, will the meetings be the same time each month? And thank you so much for having these Zoom meetings for those who travel. Yes, we have a lot of members who joined from up north, Washington, and even BC, Canada. And so we have a lot of members that can start attending our meetings. They won't necessarily be the same time. As we progress into next year, we might have certain meetings at a specific time. But check the website and check the calendar. For this particular panel, we have 3 panel members, so we had to coordinate around their time. Okay, so I got another one from Carolyn Lindbergh. Thank you so much for the valuable information. I really appreciate the sharing.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Sharon.
Just out of curiosity, how many found out about this from Facebook? How many found out from the website? How many found out from other means, word of mouth?
Just raise your hand. Raise your hand into the camera. How many found out from the website? All right. How many found out from the email that was sent out? Okay. How many found out from Facebook? Okay.
That was a good
Any
question,
other
Sharon.
means? Any other means that we haven't covered?
I made 20 phone calls.
Okay, Carlene.
Yeah, no, I did,
was
and
asked
3
to
people
present.
came. That but Mel, you were gonna come anyway, right? Here, I'll unmute him.
Yes, I was coming anyway.
Okay, and Margaret was gonna come anyway. How about you, Mel?
You're muted.
I'm trying to unmute him. Mel is a new member from Bend.
He's
But
an
he's
old
also
member.
an old member.
He's an old member.
Yeah.
He's
An
been
old
around.
member, he renewed.
Yeah.
Mel,
Good to see you again, Mel.
was you gonna come anyway?
Am I still muted or can you hear me?
No, I unmuted you.
Yeah, I had seen your email.
Okay, great. I
Can
know
I say something?
I sent out 3, sorry.
Okay,
You're doing
I'm
a
gonna
good
say
job.
something.
Joe Bennett, how did you find out?
People can unmute themselves.
He just did.
Good evening, everybody. How are y'all?
I remember you from your cat design.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Lynn. Hi, Kathy. Hi, anybody and everybody. Hi, Mitzi and all. This is a very interesting meeting. This is way beyond any kind of pricing or any kind of thing that I do. Additionally, my COE is completely different than you folks because I'm still trying to search out all the good 96 stuff. And I was curious, Bob, that why my 6x6 little dishes that some of the ladies here have seen, I will put those things on sale at my shows for between $50 and $60.
Wow.
And they'll sell right off the shelf.
Hmm.
So Um, and my firings might be one more than yours because I have to do colored glass, clear glass, fire it, and then I put pieces of glass on top of it because the pieces that I put on top of my plates and my dishes are contour fired pieces. So I have to do that at another firing, and then I do the slump firing. And still, I figure that for 30, a quarter of a foot of glass, I can still manage to get $55 out of it. I don't.
Maybe
Beg
more.
pardon?
The design you use maybe is more involved and more appealing than what I'm doing, and would demand a higher price.
That plate was very beautiful. Don't say that. But I don't do the silk stuff because I don't have the proper computing to do any of that. Kathy Engholm, who I know you know, I learned her silk screening technique. In fact, it was during her teaching me that she wrote the little syllabus that she now gives to everybody.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, what Kathy does is considerably more involved than what I do.
I know. I've tried one and I haven't.
Yeah.
I tried one and I haven't done anything after that.
It may well be that I'm just leaving money on the table too.
Well, I do kind of the same thing you do, but I was very surprised when I saw what the final outcome was.
Joe, where do you typically sell?
Well, there is an art show season that I don't have this year, and I've gone, the Edmonds Art Festival, Silverton. I go as far as Sisters in the fall, and there's a considerable bunch of shows. I see Mitzi at the SIP every year. Hi, sweetie, and other places, I'm sure. But and then I supplement some of the weekends when I'm not doing those things at the Vancouver Farmers Market. I had done the Beaverton Market for a number of years, but they're not part of the market. They're part of that church, and the market is really not happy with us being there, and so they just kept closing us off. And after a number of years, you see the same faces walk by every weekend anyway.
That's where Mary Stoneman was.
Exactly, and I'm so sorry to hear about Mary. She was such a dear heart and such a great help to me too. She was a very great help to me. And
it might be the venue that you're selling at that allows you to get a higher price as well. I made a decision a number of years ago that I just didn't want to bother doing shows where I had to set up a booth and be there all weekend. That's a lot of work.
And, I know.
I don't want to do that. So I said, I'm just going to sell through galleries and through open studio events where, it's a lot more convenient. And if that means that I have to pay the gallery, half the profit or half the sales price, so be it. And, maybe people coming to booths at a market know that, I either buy this now or I won't have another opportunity because who knows when I might run into this artist again at another show.
I get a lot of "Are you going to be here next week?" type things too.
Yeah. Yes. Whereas at a gallery, they can always look at it and say, "Well, I don't know. Maybe I'll think about it, and I'll come back next week if I still think I want it." So, I think maybe the booth approach is one that demands higher prices. I really don't know, but
I know that it demands a whole lot of muscle. That's for sure. People don't realize how heavy. They don't realize how heavy all this stuff is.
That's a lot. That's
and when I have to carry around 4 shelves and a canopy and the whole thing, every time we take this down, my wife says the same word every time it's over. She looks at me and says, "Next year, jewelry."
I think you deserve higher prices for going through all that effort.
Oh, I know. Yeah. But you see, then they become what I call the bigger pieces. I know that I'm going to sit with those for a very long time. Yeah. It's very hard for me to walk out to an art show and put something for $375 on it and expect somebody to buy it right away. And when they do buy it, that's what I call my oh crap sale, if you'll excuse me, because then I go, oh crap, now I have to make another one of these things. So, you know, I'm struggling along like everybody else at this time of year. But surprisingly and thankfully, the Etsy site is doing very interestingly. And it's the cats that are going, by the way, Sharon. The big cats.
Oh, there
the
you
big
go.
cats. They're going.
Love
They're
those
going.
cats.
Thank you.
Let me just announce that on August 26th at 7 p.m. that we are going to have a show and tell. We'd like to see what kind of stuff you've done during this COVID lockdown. And so bring your piece and you can stick it up in front of your camera. And so we're going to do a show and tell at 7 p.m. on the 26th. And August 16th from 1 to 3, we have a board meeting which anybody can attend. And then let's see. Sharon, did you have an announcement?
No, I just had one other technique for pricing glass.
Okay.
My technique is double OTA, out of thin air.
Does it involve a dartboard?
Pretty much.
Mel had a question.
I was going to show, this is the form that I get from Bullseye, and I write down everything on these forms. So I don't do a graph. I have my folder.
I do the same thing. I do the same thing, Mitzi. I like the Bullseye form, and I frantically go through and look for them now and then, so I can remember what the heck I did. You know, especially if it has torch work in it. You know, I'll figure out what the heck did I do.
Hey, Carlene, Mel had a question.
It's more of an announcement. So I'm on the board of the Sisters Arts Association. I live outside of Sisters, closer to Redmond. And our studio tour is the last weekend of September. I'm the boss. My work will be in there. 39 artists in 24 studios, up from 24 artists last year. And they're spread all over. There's actually, I had to do this analysis. There's 9 within the city limits of Sisters, 9 studios, and 15 studios outside of Sisters. And so this year we allowed the artists to host guest artists. I have 3 more in my studio. And so if you guys have reason to come over to Central Oregon, that's a great weekend to do it. September 26th and 27th.
Mel, will you share that on the website?
Send that information to me.
Yeah.
And I'll get it out also.
And we can put it on our calendar.
That'd be great.
Mel, do you have any idea whether Jerry is going to do the fall festival this year?
No, I don't know that. I know just about everything is canceled. We actually, I found out that there's actually a lady in charge of the Deschutes County COVID-19 task force team. And I wrote her an email saying exactly what the studio tour would be as far as dispersed studios and how every studio would have all the proper precautions like every gallery has. And she sent me a very nice letter back saying that this is exactly the type of event that they want to not promote, but approve of, and then hope she can come.
Great.
So the fact that we're doing it so dispersed, it's totally different than like a Fourth Friday Art Walk and Sisters or a gallery tour or anything like that.
Great.
No.
Okay.